So Tim and I, we've been discussing the Russian language for almost a year now, right?
Yeah, on and off, yeah.
Yes, and you and I just think that people are kind of afraid of this complexity of the Russian language.
Yeah.
Or at least this is what we hear from your clients, your audience, people you communicate with, and you keep telling them that this is actually not. What would you say, again, about the Russian language?
Yeah,
How difficult
it's basically that Russians themselves have some sort of weird pride that they think that their language is too complicated to learn, despite the fact that there are like 180 ethnicities in Russia, and all those ethnicities had to learn Russian at some point. So it's not that bad. And also, I think they look at it the wrong way. It's not that Russia, it's like if I asked you to sit down and try to create the next iPhone. Well, you're not an engineer. You don't know that's not possible. I think it's more like the time my father ordered 15 tons of gravel for me to move around the territory of his house when I was on vacation. So I had 3 weeks to move 15 tons of gravel. So it wasn't that it was hard. It was just kind of time consuming, and you have to do it. And there goes the first ton and the second ton, and then eventually all 15 tons disappear. So it wasn't that it was hard, it was just kind of time consuming. And I think that that's what language learning really is.
I agree. So it is more about the process of being there, trying many different things.
Yeah.
Like starting to and feeling them, right? It is more about feeling the language, feeling different sides of it, different sounds and different structures.
Yeah,
and trying to enjoy it, trying to grasp it.
Yeah, it's kind of like repetition. Like I know a lot of people who know how to play guitar, and it's sort of like if you put 2 hours into playing guitar, after a little while, you're going to get good. You just kind of have to do it. Your fingers remember where to go. I can't play guitar, but I can type in English and Russian very fast. And at one point in my life, I had to look at each key. And now I don't even look at the keyboard. And that's the same thing with Russian grammar. People see charts, like for the cases. Oh my God, there's a chart. How can I remember this? I haven't looked at that chart in 16, 18 years because it's just already in your brain. It just becomes automatic, And also the charts are drawn very poorly. Your charts are better. So what do you think then learning the Russian language is for your students? Is it more like this marathon, or is it something you can do quickly? Is it like designing the new iPhone? What is it like?
Well, if you do it quickly, you will forget it quickly because this is how our brain simply functions. It cannot, you can grasp it quickly, but then you have to invest your time in practicing. And the more you practice, the more regularly you do this, the better you memorize everything, and the more comfortable you feel with using the language in communication.
So I want to ask you about the sort of time investment that goes into this. So someone is a native speaker of English and they want to learn Russian for whatever reason. How much time do they have to put in, I don't know, per day or per week so they can steadily improve? What kind of commitment?
Well, the ideal plan would be to invest some time a day, like every day, because this is how we all are. Because if you love something and to learn anything, not only the Russian language, but anything, you'd better love it, right? This is what drives you forward. And so first of all, you need to make sure that you love the language. And then you know for yourself how much time you want to invest. Because it's like being in love with a person. If we love someone, or better to say, when we love someone, then we won't agree to skip a single day without this person, right? We want to be with them every single day. So this is exactly the same with language learning.
And that was just like with my friends who learned how to play the guitar. They friggin' love heavy metal, man. So it wasn't like they forced themselves to do 2 hours of guitar every day. They were always listening to heavy metal, always practicing because they wanted to.
From 15 to 1 hour and a half would be just perfect on a daily basis. Like if you can do it 1 hour and a half, 3 times a week, that's great. But if you can only spend 15 minutes, then do it every day. And I'm saying that if you do not have time, like no time, but you know you have to learn Russian somehow, and you know you only have 5 minutes in the morning, then 5 minutes during the day, and then before you go to sleep, you also have 5 minutes. Then you're fine. You can be fine. You just can listen to a song while driving to
work or
yeah. It is not necessary to understand the lyrics. The most important thing is to actually listen to it, because your brain is working at this time, at this moment, and then you can watch a video on YouTube. Again, it is not that you have to understand every single word they say or the general meaning.
And in Russian, the auto subtitles on YouTube actually work very well. So if you turn on the subtitles, you'll be able to see what they're saying, which can help certain people like me.
Actual thing that matters is to do things, no matter what you do.
Well, it's to try, because that's one other problem that I don't understand with people. Maybe it's because I'm a big, aggressive guy. Some people are always so afraid, well, I don't know, maybe this won't happen, maybe this won't work, maybe I'll fail. Who cares? Especially if you fail to learn a language. As long as you maybe don't talk about it publicly, only you'll know. So don't be afraid to try.
To give it a try is the first thing. Then the person who has decided to learn this language for whatever reason, you always have to kind of keep in mind what it is all for. It helps enormously, because if every day you imagine this perfect situation when you already speak Russian with Russian people, for example, in the middle of Russia, enjoying your life, or whatever it is, just enjoy it properly every single day. Do not be afraid of failure, right? Just keep in mind your goals, your ultimate.
Well, yeah, if someone wants to move to Russia, if that's their goal is to move to Russia, then what they're going to try to do or try to focus on might be different than someone who, I don't know, is into maybe a particular Russian pop group, or they want to read Dostoevsky in the original. Now, that's a very high level. You can know a lot less than that and move to Russia. And like what you were saying about sometimes words and listening is, even when I first started learning Russian, I could remember the old Soviet anthem, Союзные Рушимы Республик Свободных. The word narushime is a very complex grammatical construct, but you don't need to know that. You just kind of need to get in the rhythm of the way the word sounds and what it means. I can explain to you what it is later, but it's quite complicated what that is.
I totally agree. Yes, people, there is a tendency that people focus on difficulties instead of focusing on their dreams and goals. And again, if you're imagining every single day your final goals already come true, then it helps enormously to build up a proper learning process, because this is going to be your motivation, which is another key thing in learning process.
And also one thing you can do is that makes it also easier to force yourself to learn Russian is pick some video games. Like for me, it was the original Stalker video game, which I played the Russian version of. So you have the whole interface, all the items, all the buttons, all the explanations are in Russian, and you have no choice but to survive. That really helps. I do the opposite actually for my children. My daughter's English is very good. My son had less time in American school, so he plays Harry Potter's Hogwarts Legacy only in English. Dad made it so.
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned video games, because I don't play and I don't understand people who spend time on video games. But I have a very good friend who has been making really great video games in Russian for foreigners, which is cool, because he inserts this language learning in the video games, which I think is just cool. And as a learning tool, I mean, and as a teaching tool, because I always think as a teacher, not as a learner. And these games are going to appear on our platform, which we are already running for everyone who is interested in Russia, in learning Russian, in Russian culture, Russian language, whatever it is. So those video games will appear on the platform shortly.
Oh, good stuff, because I remember to this day, thanks to Stalker, Jump, Прыжок, and Medkit, Aptechka. See? So I don't think that those games will be surrounding the themes of the Chernobyl disaster. So maybe the terminology in them will be a bit more useful on an everyday basis. But in every car in Russia, there is an aptechka. You have to have the little med kit as part of owning a car. So that's a little bit practical. So if we're going back to, again, starting with Russian, like, what's the first thing? Where does someone just start learning? What's like topic number one?
Well, this is a very good question because I know, again, thanks to you, that there are so many self-learners who are trying to grasp the Russian language on their own, which is great. And this is why I think the very first thing for them would be to learn how to read. Because reading in Russian is relatively easy.
Yeah.
I mean, if we compare reading in English.
Oh, so you mean
reading
learning
in
the
Russian,
alphabet in order to read?
Exactly. Yeah. And how you put basically two letters together, how you should read them. It is relatively easy because, you know, there are very few exceptions to the rules.
Yeah, basically things are more or less spelled the way they sound, maybe with the exception of the letter O. But guess what? In American English, O becomes A a lot of the time, too. Like how I say not instead of not or note or something.
Yes, you do the same thing.
The exact same thing in America, yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah.
This is so interesting how you do this, because this irritates the British people a lot.
Oh, well, yeah.
Just like...
No, it's not about us. Yeah.
Yes, it is not about... Yes.
Yeah.
I should not make jokes about it because...
Yes, we should. Take that, Britain. But yeah, that phenomenon is called akanye. In fact, it's such a big part of the Russian language, it has its own name. And akanye happens in American English all the time.
Akanye, when you turn the O into A.
Well, yeah, like I don't say coffee, I say coffee. Give me a coffee. O becomes or again, it becomes A, basically.
Yeah. Some people get disappointed with such things like turning O into A, but that happens very rarely, right?
Yeah, it's and also, like I said, it's kind of easy to remember because there are, basically in Russian, aren't there 4 spelling rules to the entire Russian language, correct? 3 or 4?
Well, in fact, there are more, but it depends what you call spelling rules.
Yeah. Basically, like how so basically, rule number 1 was like O can sometimes become A, and what's that? That after like the zh, sh letters, you don't have E. And there's like one more, but see, I do that automatically now. I don't even think about it. But there's like 3 or 4, and that's it.
Okay, let's be fair. Yeah, now I got what you mean. Speaking about those rules, there are, to be honest, there are about 10 of them, like really important ones. But they're very easy to understand. And if you have a teacher to explain how they all function, so that you can learn how to read, and then leave it alone if you want to be a self-learner to keep it like this, then you can just read and enjoy reading, because unlike in English, again, I'm sorry to point it out, but unlike in English, you can be sure that the rules actually work.
Yeah, there's not the whole silent letter phenomenon, or, well, this word comes from Italian, so it's pizza, not pizza. You know, like you have to learn the origin of the word to know the pronunciation. In Russian, that's not the case. Everything is more or less, you know, spelled the way it sounds, which is easy.
So yeah, all in all, there are around 10 main rules. Like you said, O turns into A. And also, ye, I like to discuss this ye, because if it is unstressed, it also becomes E. You know, like добрый вечер.
Yeah. Or like Peterburg. Хотя это Петербург написано.
Yeah.
It's like St. Petersburg is actually written more like Peterburg, but it's Peterburg. So yeah.
And things like this. And you can learn them easily. And then you can enjoy reading in Russian and learning new vocabulary. I would recommend to start with vocabulary, because as we discussed, and we discussed it many times with you, there are so many borrowed words. Like, people will recognize them because they were borrowed from first Latin languages and English.
Yeah.
Computer, telephone, engine,
Pizza, the most important one.
taxi.
But that's not from English, but it's delicious.
Yeah. Yes. You're the one who order a lot and
Yeah,
who knows everything about ordering and
Ordering
delivery.
food. Well, yeah, that would be the Russians because everything is delivered here. But yeah, so yeah, there are so many of these sort of like, I don't know, international words, if you want to call them, of Latin, Greek, and often English origin, and they're all in Russian, so it's very easy. In fact, whatever town you're in, just put in like a Google search of, I don't know, London in Russian, and it'll just be London, basically, the way it's spelled. But yeah.
And the second point for self-learners, because I care a lot about them, I'm worried a little bit about them because it is easier with the Russian language, it is easy to take a wrong way.
Yeah, like my
Kind of.
pronunciation. Because I really learned most stuff from like books and all that and reading. And yeah, I learned a lot more through the letters. And so the whole pronunciation part came like 5-7 years later.
So yes, if you're a self-learner and you're touching to the grammar, which you should sooner or later, people say that the Russian grammar is one of the most complicated grammars in the entire world, which I can understand. I mean, why people say so. But at the same time, as a teacher, I know that it is all about how you learn it. Maybe for the grammar, again, you'll need a teacher to explain the most important points so that you can practice. But again, as a self-learner, you should make sure that you learn a little bit of grammar and then you put it in practice. Like, practice is essential for self-learning. For example, you learn, let's take some easy structure that is safe for self-learners. For example, это чай, okay? Or это телефон, because we need something international, as you said.
Yeah, telephone. Got it.
So,
telephone.
so for example, you're a self-learner and you've just learned how to say this is together with that is, it is, these are, and those are, which is one word in Russian, right?
Yeah. You just say это and then
the name of
the thing. Yeah.
Yes. So what would you do as a self-learner if you just learned this little grain of grammar? What would you do with this?
Well, you would apply it to everything. So, это телефон, это стол, это чай,
Yes.
and so on. Yeah.
Yes, and you do it the entire day, let's say, and then on the next day you pass to something else, right? But you make sure that you play with this structure the entire day. Like, playing with the language is another key idea of how you actually should approach the entire thing, right?
Yeah.
And yes, and then on the next day, once you've learned and practiced enough this structure, which is это телефон, then on the next day you can turn it into a question, right? Which will be
Это телефон.
right, good pronunciation pattern. The telephone. What do you do actually? Because people, Americans, especially, they very often do not understand how you transform the statement into a question.
Well, in written form, that's easy. You put the question mark. But when you're saying it in speech, you have to really, это чай или cola? I don't know. Is this tea or is this Coca-Cola or whatever? Yeah, we have to really, it would be more like, is this tea?
Yeah.
Is this a telephone? You have to kind of say it like you're in a comedy movie or something.
Yeah, that's what they say all the time. Are we in comedy or what?
Yeah.
Why do I have to exaggerate like this?
Oh.
Especially IT people who are probably introvert for the most part, they do not like to play with their voice. And
yeah, people who speak Russian very flatly. In fact, that's one criticism that people from Finland, Estonia, and the English-speaking countries get, is that we speak Russian very flatly without putting much punch into it. Because that's also something that happens with every word, has emphasis. Like, you can't just say, хорошо, хорошо, ты хорош, if хорошо becomes a man. Ты хорош. You have to really put the emphasis. And that's why when Russians speak English, They sound nervous. This is the beginning of because in English there's so many short words, every word is emphasized. And that's why Russians sound, I think, very nervous when they speak English, because the emphasis is everywhere. Whereas in Russian, there's fewer words, but they're beefier. So it's more like, boom, информация у нас нет его. So there's less, you see? It's more smooth in the native language.
Tell me the truth. Am I sounding nervous when I speak?
No, you don't, but you sound nervous because I think you're a little bit nervous in front of the camera. But no, the way you speak English is more, I mean, the more like the security guard that you'll meet in Russia who is like, you foreign, why you be here now? You're like, why you be here now? But that very nervous tone that you'd usually hear from men. Women are better at communicating. So usually women have a better accent when they speak English than men. Men don't care.
Yeah.
Usually, yeah.
So the point, yes, I got you. The point is that when learning to read, already when you're learning to read, you should make sure that you are stressing those words, not words, but those letters that are marked in every actually single word.
Yeah, that emphasis is really critical to speak Russian well. To write in like a messenger, it doesn't matter because you don't write it. But when you're speaking it, it really does. Like, oh, I don't know, what would be a good example? Again, let's take a word. Like you can't say informaция. Informaция. Like you have to say it that way or people are just like, what? And certain words change. Like one lake is озеро. But when there's multiple lakes and it's plural, it's озера. See, it changes. It goes from the first position to the middle. But again, that's something where you kind of just have to like feel it out and you'll eventually know. Then you'll be like, yeah, it's озера. Maybe a little bit complicated there. But anyways, it's just, I'll just say, it's just really, as you're learning Russian, that whole emphasis thing, like, it's so important. It's kind of like how in English, monsters in movies will be like, me like this, me love that. Like if you don't do the emphasis, you don't sound like an adult. You sound, it's just something it's really super critical.
Yes, this is why when reading on your own, just do this, right?
Yeah.
Don't be lazy, don't be shy. Do this, like really stress those letters.
Yeah. Oh, you know, the emphasis, you know what it's like? It's like the words and the in English. Foreign people are terrible at them, but you have to speak them. Or again, you sound like a movie monster. So, sorry guys, that's the hard part about English, but with Russian, I guess I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's important for the style.
It is. People will not understand you if you are not using this speaking pattern.
Yeah, because not only are you a foreigner with an accent, but you're sort of speaking in a very garbled way, like blah, 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 rather than speaking in a way that's eloquent and precise. So that way the person knows exactly what words you're saying. Of course, in English, no one really talks like that except for people on television, but it's clear. It's a very clear way to speak. So here's another thing then about sort of learning Russian is just like there are some really good textbooks out there and some dismally terrible textbooks out there, does the same thing apply to teachers? I would imagine it would.
As a teacher, I should talk about this issue carefully because you're asking me to discuss my colleagues, basically. But
well, colleagues you don't know. So.
Well, yes. But yeah, this is a very good question because I know people sometimes they have very bad experience with teachers they find on the internet because there are more and more teachers of the Russian language on the internet and not all of them are professional teachers, which is for the Russian language is dramatically important, I would say, because the Russian language can be quite complicated if it is structured in the wrong way.
And if it's explained terribly.
Yes.
You know, like I could say that if you were a native speaker of English, right? Can you explain to a foreign person when to use the, or no article easily? Try doing that. It's not so easy.
Exactly, exactly. And this is what happens, in my opinion. There are many teachers on the internet who are charging fairly
Cheap rates.
cheap
Yeah.
rates. Yes, I think this is a big issue of nowadays because there are so many Russian native teachers who are teaching for they're charging fairly low rates, and people think that, oh, I'm so lucky to find this nice-looking young native Russian professional teacher, and they expect that these people will teach them
Yeah.
properly, which never happens. Because I'm telling you, this is a very complicated task for, like you just said, for just a native speaker to explain the entire structure.
And especially the more advanced things. Like if a Chinese person was sitting here with me, he could be speaking English and I could hear that something's weird or wrong, and I could be, well, that's bad. But then he asks, why is that bad? Good question. I have no idea.
And in my opinion, namely, those non-professional teachers are one of the reasons that people, after all, think and say that the Russian language is so complicated, because it is those teachers who complicated the entire process instead of structuring it in a right way, so this process becomes enjoyable for the person.
Yeah. Especially stuff like the grammar cases. That is so overblown. I don't know why people pick that thing. Oh, there's 6 cases in Russian, but they're consistent. They behave in a consistent way. It's way overblown. I don't know why people focus on that, but yeah, maybe because these teachers do such a poor job of explaining them.
Exactly because of that. And I know how this particular topic, the cases, is usually explained, is presented to the foreigners. And I think that this is the worst way we can ever explain how it all functions, because the cases actually do exist in the English language as well. You have 3 cases, like you have subjective, objective, and possessive case. And we have the same cases plus 3 more. So why don't we start talking about the cases through this parallel with the English cases. Like we always use the subjective case when we talk about someone or something that acts, right? Like Tim and I are talking.
Yeah.
Tim и я говорим. Okay? We are doing something actively. We are the subjects of some action. We produce this action. Whatever the situation is, if you can identify who or what is doing something, then you should express this subject, the actor, with a certain form, which is the basic form, the base form, right? The dictionary form, basically.
Yeah, that's the first case. The first case is just the word as it is. Like, remember in school when you had to learn what's the subject of a sentence and the object of a sentence? Maybe in English that doesn't really matter, but in Russian it does. That's essentially what the cases are. It's like you put a little tag on the word that's the object of the sentence, and then there was something that might be like the means by which something was done. You put a tag on that one. You're essentially just putting little flags on the words. That's what all those endings are, and they're very consistent, because there's only so much that you can do in a sentence. There's like the subject, the verb, the object, and then maybe something else, like I wrote a book with a pen, right? There's only so much you can do, and there's I is the subject, wrote would be a verb in the past tense, a book is a thing, so that would be the nominative case in Russian, knigu instead of kniga, and then with a pen, ruchkой instead of ruchka.
You're complicating it.
Yeah,
You're not the teacher.
No, but I mean,
who's the teacher here? But the logic is very is correct, of course.
Yeah.
But you're just given this very complicated example because you're using 3
different cases.
3 different cases in one sentence. Yes, instead of, and this is exactly what many teachers unfortunately do as well. Instead of concentrating step by step on every single case one after another. Like, you know how to, that you have to identify, like with your eyes and brain, you have to, or ears even, you have to hear who is acting. Like once you train yourself to identify the subject, the actor, then you know that you have to apply the subjective case, which is called differently in Russian, but it is the same thing.
Yeah.
Then the second step will be to teach yourself, to train yourself to identify the object, as you said. Like, how did you say it? Я написал книгу. I wrote a book.
I wrote a book. Yeah.
I wrote a book. Like, I wrote a book. Wrote is an action.
Yeah.
You did something, okay? It does not matter until you get to the object. What did you actually wrote? Okay, a book. The book is the object of your action. Okay, you identified that object. You found it. Good. Then you know that you only need to apply a very little, easy to understand and memorize rule. Like you change the one little letter at the very end of the word, a to u, as you said.
Yeah. So it's, you can't say я написал книга. You say я написал книгу, and that's how you know that that's the object. It's kind of like how in English, even if we say I love him, but I him love, it makes no sense. But you kind of can see that even in the wrong order, because it's I and him, you know, he becomes him, that it still kind of makes sense a little bit. And that's what Russian does. It allows you to put anything in any order, like книгу написал я. So I wrote the frickin' book. That's how you could kind of say it that way. And it provides a weird way to play with the emphasis and meaning of it. But as long as it's книгу with the ending that's proper, it all makes sense. Trust me. Or trust her.
Yeah, better trust me.
Yeah.
Again, trust me. Even, I mean, this is my favorite topic. I'm sorry, I have to keep saying, keep talking about it. Even whatever situation it is, you need to look who is the actor and who is the object of this action. Like I just said, or we just said, team said, trust her, and I said, trust me. We're giving you this imperative, this idea of what to do. Like trust, do something. This is going to be your action. You're going to trust somebody. Now we're giving you an idea of who you should trust, who you should apply this action of trusting to whom?
Yeah.
To me.
Because you can't say you trust I. It's you trust me. I has to become me, or it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. That's, and this is how it works with every single case. And the case you mentioned, what is it? Instrumental case, which is, you know, you can understand what it means, what it is used for by the name already, as you said.
It's the how something was done, you know.
Yeah, instrument. Like, for example, I can hit you with my telephone.
Yeah.
I use not my hand, right? Not the cup, or do you call it mug?
It could be a mug, it can be a cup. It's up to the individual, but yes.
I used my phone.
Yeah.
So I used this phone as an instrument to do the action. So I did this. I was the subject. Tim, at this point, was the object of my action.
Yeah.
And the instrument of the action was the telephone.
Yeah.
You have the three cases.
And it's all that's it.
And that's it. And we also have, and let's finish this topic with the cases by giving the examples for the other three. Like we are where?
Oh yeah, though that's the easiest one. Is the what is it even called? And I don't remember in English.
It is called locative or or prepositional.
Prepositional case, that's the name. Sorry, I forgot that one. But yeah, that's the easiest one because people ask you where you're from, and your answer is Я живу, yeah. Let's just pretend I still live in Cleveland. Я живу в Кливленде. Она живет в Москве, or something like that. You just with that one, the prepositional case, you just put yeah at the end of the word. It's really easy, and that's how you say where you're from or where you're living currently.
Yeah, and the most important thing is that teachers usually, unfortunately it is, and I'm sorry to say this, that usually teachers use this logic. They give the students those charts, tables, which is wrong in my opinion, because instead of giving them charts, first of all, they have to give them a picture. This is why my book is based on pictures, because I want to teach people to, first of all, to see situations, to identify what is going on and what you exactly want to say, and only based on that use certain rules, which are, after all, in this logic, in this consequence, those rules and those charts become pretty useful, right?
Yeah.
And people then will know why they need those charts and why they need to know those rules, because they will know that they need to apply them in very concrete situations. And they will know then that they need the Russian grammar only to express properly what they want to say. So it gives freedom, instead of thinking that, oh, I have to learn this Russian grammar somehow.
It's not somehow. It's sort of, it's taking it each one of these cases sort of one at a time. Like you said, I think the prepositional one is by far the easiest. And again, just talking about where something is, like we have stole, na stole. Again, you just sort of add the letter "yeah" to the end of all the words, and it's real easy. And it's a great way to start. And you'll see on the chart that it'll have the male ending, yeah, neutral ending, yeah, female ending, yeah, as well. And you're like, okay, cool. The other cases have a bit more diversity when it comes to the genders, but you see, it's a good place to start.
Yes, absolutely. And there's, what else are we missing? The accusative we discussed.
Yeah.
Oh, what do we have?
Well, we talked about the instrumental. Dative.
This is my favorite as well. All of them are my favorite. Because everyone, also because each of them is unique. Like, you cannot mix them up. In fact, once you understand what every case serves for, you will never mix them up. For example, dative, the dative case. Dative comes from Latin language, dare, like the Italians will recognize it. Dare in Italian is to give. So dative comes from dare, and it means that you're given to someone something. So once you want to mention that, I'm saying, for example, I'm giving my phone, not number, just my phone, to Tim.
We already have the number.
He has my number. Once you see this, that someone gives something to someone else, that's dative. Pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Or, for example, if another situation but the same meaning, if you want me to give you tea, for example, what would you say? What would you use?
No, дайте чай, пожалуйста.
Please. So what I'm doing, no, дайте мне, right?
Дайте мне чай, пожалуйста. Sorry. So in English, thankfully, the pronouns change just like in Russian. So it's you gave me tea, or you gave tea to me, or whatever, however you want to say it. But you can see there's that change. You have to say to me. Whereas in Russian, it would be at the end, мне, or well, it would be мне, but if it was to me as to being Tim, it would be Timu.
Yes.
So.
Da, I'm so glad I'm the teacher here.
Yeah, well, see, I find that kind of stuff fascinating.
Details, like you know many details because you have so much experience with. How do you say, like, when you're not climbing on, but kind of climbing through these.
Oh, pushing, I don't know, forging my way through.
Yes.
I don't know, I just think that one of the things that's always made me excited about the language is how it almost works like computer programming. If this happens, then this happens. So if giving something, male word gets oo at the end. So for me, that's kind of the way, what makes me excited about the language. So I guess people, different strokes for different folks, as they say. So, but I think we're missing one last case we didn't talk about at all, and it's kind of the big one, the genitive case, which comes up all the time, especially in the names of government organizations.
Yes. And this one is my favorite too. Again, I'm repeating myself because it is so interesting. It has more diversity, as you said.
Yeah.
It provides you with more functions, with more freedom, because it gives you, like, one form can be used in many different situations, but basically it is about counting things. If you are saying that you do not have something,
Yeah, even if there's none of something.
right, you're still talking about the amount, like how much do you have? Well, none of
it.
thing. Yeah, none of it. None of it.
Yeah.
And it is still genitive because you're talking about, you're counting something. And again, why I love teaching the cases, because they're super logical and super well structured, I would say, because again, you cannot mix them up because you know that this case, we only have 6 of them. And once you know that for counting, you need to use the genitive case, you can be sure that none of the rest of the cases can work in this particular situations. So once you...
Yeah. That's good. So it
Isn't it
excludes
brilliant?
them, basically. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So all you need to do is to make sure you know that talking about location, you need to use locative. Talking about subject, people who, or whatever, acting actively, you need to use nominative. When giving something to someone, it's dative, and so on. So, and whatever the situation you're describing, you're talking about is, if the essence of this situation, of what is actually going on or being discussed, is this, for example, counting something, then you know that it is only genitive that works here.
Yeah.
I mean, it is not only that you say, I have 2 telephones. Like, we're counting 2 telephones. It is going to be genitive. How is it going to be?
Well, два телефона.
Da.
Yeah. Telephone becomes telefona.
Yeah. Again, you change, like, how do we call this very little tiny action at the very end of the word?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Well,
it is not a huge thing that you need to change, right?
well, yeah. It's not. It's just you just add a letter, and yeah, and you'll hear it with a. Every time Russians kind of talk about stuff, yeah, you get that at the ending. That's why there's a lot of things in Russian like last names that end in ov, because it would be, like the genitive case plus ov, because they're a family. There's many of them.
Oh, yeah. And once you know that the situation is that you're counting something, then whatever the phrase is, whether it's a question or a statement, then you need to use the genitive. For example, if I ask you, how many phones do you have? Сколько телефонов, like how many phones
Yeah, сколько телефонов. Да. So yeah, genitive ending plural.
do you have?
Yeah.
Like,
У меня нет телефона. I don't have any telephones, or I have 0 telephones. У меня нет телефона.
right,
Yeah.
right. That's genitive. And it cannot be anything else but genitive.
Yeah.
This is what makes it easy, in fact, to start using, not just to learn. I really hate to say that you need to learn the language. You need to understand it, like this little of theory, and then to use it.
Yeah.
This is how we acquire the language, right?
And that's why I only want to work with you in terms of promoting things about the Russian language, because you get that. Because virtually no one understands that if you give people these little sort of, I don't know, tips or strategies or way of looking at things, everything just becomes easier. There's no magic to this. There's no you don't have to read through the tea leaves to understand it. You just have to understand the logic of it. Basically, people teach with 0 logic most of the time, and I don't get that. Once you understand the logic of the language, it all behaves.
Yeah, that's a pity. I agree. I know what you're talking about. And unfortunately, I have to say that you are right. I mean, I see, as the head of a language school, I can say that when we test teachers before hiring them, I can say that the majority of teachers, unfortunately, again, they use no logic, which complicates the entire thing after all. And we don't want that.
Well, yeah, because then everything just becomes meaningless terms, genitive, dative, ending, conclude. Yeah, grammar terminology just being thrown at you doesn't teach you anything.
It can be called like bureaucracy in teaching, because they only think about, providing you with stuff. And they say, oh, I've given all I had to give as a teacher. And there is no way, there is no chance for a foreigner to accept.
Yeah, to sort of integrate
Absorb,
it.
yes,
absorb it, yeah.
To integrate is a good word. To integrate in the vision of the language, of the system of the Russian language. Because everything has to be systemized.
Yeah.
Like every new thing you learn has to be integrated into a whole system. This is what you need a professional native teacher for.
Yeah, because then otherwise things seem random, and they're not random. They really aren't. Sometimes I feel like spelling in English isn't random, but as you get older, you realize it all just comes from foreign languages and their crazy spellings. But yeah, there's really not anything random about the Russian language that I can think of. Other than what words we choose to use and maybe what words we choose not to. But yeah, it's all logical. It's all part of a system. Just a little bit of a big system. Now, here's one of those other things that I think gets overblown on the internet about the Russian language are the word genders. Oh my God, there's 3 genders to all the words. That's crazy. It's not crazy. How would you explain that to a foreign person? Because I think that's something people learn within 2 weeks and never forget it.
Oh yeah. I'm actually surprised that you're saying that people are nervous about those 3 genders. In fact, it's literally nothing, because you have 3 genders too, right, in English. We just treat them slightly different. We just use them differently, right? In English, you have what? Masculine, feminine, and neuter. Yeah. And you always know by biological sex of the...
So that's why 99% of things in English are it. All the ideas, objects, animals, only things that are specifically related to real life men and women would be, he and she. And sometimes boats are she, because we give them a personality.
And cars, I guess.
And cars too, yeah. Whereas in Russian, it's all based on the spelling, correct?
Yes. We're more Democrat than you are, actually.
Oh, yeah, in some ways, Russian is more gender fluid because it just matters how something is spelled. It doesn't really matter anything else.
Yeah. And as you said, it is about spelling in Russian. So we have 3 genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter. And the way you recognize the gender is that you look at the very end of a word. Again, everything at the very end.
Yeah.
Interestingly. So you look at the very last letter in a word, and you can say whether it's masculine, feminine, or neuter.
Yeah.
Right.
And Russian names line up with this. So you'll notice there's a trend. Men, Mikhail, Pavel, I don't know, who else? Yevgeny, which ends in kind of like the letter Y, whereas Russian women are Natalia, Tatiana, Anna. Interesting. You notice a trend there.
Yes. So if you have a at the end of a word, then it's definitely
female.
Yeah. Feminine, right?
Yeah,
if it is which is a soft counterpart of the like a soft version of the The Russian language is very much about this musicality of the ending. Like you really need to train your ear to hear what is at the end of every word. Then you will succeed in grammar, in communication, because then you'll hear what to do. Because if you hear kniga, you hear this beautiful open sound. What association do you have with this?
Relaxation? I don't know.
Anyway, it's beautiful and it is feminine.
Yeah.
Then if you change it a little bit and make it softer, it still has this beautiful character, which is of course feminine. So all words that end in a or ya are feminine.
Yeah.
That's it. The same with what? With neuter.
Yeah, it's the other vowels. So that's the thing that makes it easy. It's just all the other vowels at the end of a word are neuter.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Actually, this is good.
Yeah. So that would be your o, yo, oo. Well, oo if it's a foreign word.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
e, like
E,
taxi.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And then the male words end in consonants. There's a lot of consonants in Russian, but yeah. And the one thing that's the little trick is the soft sign, but I was told by my textbooks that the majority of words that have the soft sign are female anyways. So it's not too big of an issue. Is that true, or did they lie to me?
The majority because just because we have more words somehow with ost, like novost, nежность. It's just more frequent.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, basically when you see the soft sign, when you're first starting, just consider it a female word, and feminine, I should say. And yeah, that's it. It's, again, this was a short conversation. Male words ended a consonant. Female words, ya, sometimes the soft sign, and everything else. All the other possible vowel noises are neutral. And that's it.
Like окно.
Yeah,
right?
окно is a classic, yeah.
Yeah. Or молоко for people who
Love milk.
milk. Like,
Or weird foreign words like, I don't know, Suzuki, the type of car. You know, it's you don't really know what it is in Russian, so it's neutral.
Yeah. You're right. You're more practical in this.
Yeah. And it is kind of a sad thing then if you have a name that ends in a neutral ending, because then, you know, it's not as good. It's kind of nice to have a name that, you know, changes with the cases and declines nicely.
Oh, yes, like Rodrigo.
Rodrigo is just Rodrigo. It will never change and decline. That's sad.
And this is so funny. Phonetically speaking, because, well, Spanish people or people from Latin America who come to Russia, and their name is, for example, Rodrigo.
Yeah.
But they also have Rodriga, which is a lady.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They have this A for women and
Yeah.
O in the names, for man. But when this Rodrigo man comes to Russia, we, of course, what we just said, we turn this O, once it is unstressed, into A. And we say,
yeah.
Rodriga,
Yeah.
because we stress E, Rodriga. And then we kind of don't care about the unstressed ending, and we change it.
Yeah. In fact, I knew a Japanese girl named Tomoko. It would be in English, but in Russian, I think the pronunciation was Tomaka.
Да.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And that man from Latin America, Rodrigo, always was complaining while he was here, why do they call me Rodriga? I'm not a girl.
That's because that's the way it is.
And I was saying, because you're in Russia. This is the way we talk.
He'd have to come up with a nickname like Rad. Yeah. No, Rad is also a word. Darn it, that's a hard name. Radrig.
He could turn it like Rado, something like.
Rado.
To make sure we stress the O.
Yeah, something like that. Wow. Man, that is a tough one. But then again, I've also heard that Yulia sounds really bad in Spanish, but we won't talk about that. That's a topic for another day. Yeah, see, you know.
Yeah. I know many languages, so I get many jokes.
Yeah.
And what else did you mention to me the other day? Plural and singular, something like this. This is also very easy, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because a lot of people would say that English is a very easy language because for the most part, most of the plurals are just adding S to the end of the word. And if you're a foreign person and you don't care about it being dogs, but cats, and just being like dogs, that's hard to say, you can get away with it and whatever. But in Russian, it seems like there's sort of more going on with the plurals. Or is that an illusion?
Good tea, by the way.
Yeah, actually, it is really good.
Да, спасибо.
Operaторам. Thank you to the cameramen or the operators, but it's operatoram when it's to them.
Because
Anyways,
because we're sending, because you see, the grammar person, because
Yeah.
we're sending our spasiba,
To them.
gratitude, to them.
Yeah,
It's
to
flying
them.
to them. So even if it is not physical, but we are saying something or sending some information to them or our feelings to them, saying thank you.
oh yeah, that'd be like
Then-
saying, yo, big thanks to Steve. Большое спасибо Стиву. Steve, ooh. Yeah, see?
Yeah. Have you noticed that on the keyboard,
Keyboard, yeah.
this S, the English S, which is used for plural forms in English, is on the same key as the E, which is used for plural in Russian.
My mind is blown. How did you ever notice that? That's true. Whoa. Yeah, it's usually E for most of the plurals. Get out of here. Wow. Wow. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. How did I not notice that over 20 years?
This is my favorite reaction
Yeah, okay.
to that trick. Yes, yes. But it helps to memorize how to form the plural.
Yeah, just the raw plural. Not counting. We talked about counting is genitive.
Yeah.
Just plural.
Like,
Yeah.
like, what is it? Yeah, that's a bad example.
Well, let's take something simple. Telephone?
Telephone again.
Yeah,
sorry.
telephone.
We're boring today.
Yeah. So,
This is all we have.
well,
Okay.
telephone is good.
Telephone, just
Yeah.
one. Telephone, and instead of choosing on the keyboard, instead of adding S,
Yeah.
which is in English, we add
Uy.
U,
Yeah.
which is the same key on the
Interesting.
keyboard. Телефонный.
Yeah. But again, that's different when something's just, there's a few of them in an abstract sense versus dva telefona. So it's different. That's the one difference where there is, because in English it would be telephones or 2 telephones or 500 telephones. In Russian, it's a little different.
Why are we talking about this?
Because it's cool. I love that
you're
stuff.
complicating things.
No, it's not.
Are
It
you
just
doing
makes
this
things
on
clear.
purpose?
No, it's
People
fun.
will never learn Russian after our.
No, it's the
Yes.
opposite. I think that's
If
fascinating.
you tell them from the very beginning that there are how many forms in genitive?
Forms in genitive, I don't know, but I
Like
do know.
телефона, telefonov.
Well, if we're talking about counting stuff, there's just one thing.
You're basically saying they need to know 3 different forms
But
to
no,
talk
no, no,
about
no, no.
one telephone.
No, they don't need 3 different forms because you're going to need to know the genitive case anyways. I'm just saying that when you count the phone and when there's just this random unknown mass of telephones, they're different. That's one thing.
He's being bored.
I'm not. I think that that's cool. I think that that's very detailed. That's one thing about Russian that's neat is, and especially like you even see it on like the coins. There's один рубль, 5 рублей, but they're rubli when you just sort of have a pile of them. Isn't that interesting?
I mean, if you ever get to choose your Russian teacher, choose me.
Choose. Well, of
instead
course you should choose you. I don't pretend to be a Russian teacher. I don't know. I can just tell you that like that phenomenon of a random pile of stuff is different than like 2 of something. I just think that that's cool. That's not useful. That's not good teaching. That's cool. I also love when words do the little swap at the end. Like I'm an American, so I'm Amerikanец. But if there's just a random pile of Americans, Amerikanцы. So it's not Amerikanetsi, it's Amerikanцы. Like we just talked about E.
Yes.
I think that that's super cool. How the letters like flip for style, but yeah. Because otherwise it is really hard to say. Amerikanetsi is really hard to say. The cameraman's even laughing back there because that would be impossible to say. And that's why they do it. See, it's cool.
Most of the nationalities, the names of nationalities, will have this for a man, Amerikanец,
Yeah.
or Kanadets,
Yeah.
or
That's right. Yeah, but then when they're women, they're a woman in America is Amerikanka, Kanadka. Yeah, that's another thing that's cool about Russian, is that you have like 2 separate things, but again, it's in a consistent way. It's like America jetzt, but America ka. No, kanka.
American
Ka.
This is, in my opinion, this is because we want to make sure that the two genders and they're very different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because sometimes that comes up where I've heard some women, there's a little bit of a debate whether it would be like there's, I don't know, the old word for policeman was militsioner. And I've heard sometimes like for women being like militsionierka, some women like it because they don't want to be called a man's name. And then some women are kind of like, it sounds weird. How can you have militsionierka? How can you have like a soft feminine policeman? You know, so there's a little bit of a debate about that,
Oh,
even
that's
within
boring.
Russian.
That's boring. Well, to me.
That's you? That's boring. I say again,
is
I
boring.
love that stuff. I find that fascinating. But essentially, any profession, you can sort of add ka to the end, more or less, and it becomes a woman of that profession. Or sha, bankirsha, banker, bankir, a woman banker, bankirsha.
Oh, sha, you said. I thought
Yeah, either
ka.
ka or sha.
Well, yeah, that's more about phonetics.
Yeah.
But in general, yes.
Yeah.
Because they want to be liberal. This is why they say to foreigners, we are liberal, we allow you to add this ka or sha to any name of any profession, and you'll get this feminine version. But in fact, well, in my opinion, for beginners, it would be easier to know that most of the names of professions are just one form.
Yeah,
Which is masculine.
usually, and mostly
Because in
masculine.
Russia, only men work and women are beautiful. They just sit at
Yeah.
home and, wait.
Yeah, because it is surprising that uchitel, as in teacher, is a male word, which I still find very strange because I think 90% of teachers in Russia are women, but whatever. And also another word that is a lying word is buhalter, which is accountant, and that's a male word when all accountants in Russia are women. Buhaltersha. That's what I want to say in my mind, but I don't even think does that word exist? Is there really buhaltersha?
Yes.
It does. Yay! So yeah, I think that's a more appropriate word because you go into an accounting office in Russia, all women. I can tell you one thing that one person. I tried to explain this to him, one of my like college roommates, that he found fascinating. Is I kind of explained this idea that like when you describe a word like you have, I don't know, a green book. In English, okay, those words are unrelated, but green is in front of book, so it makes sense, right? Whereas I believe in French, it would be something else like the book green, it'd be the opposite. But in Russian, the words have to like agree. It's like kniga, so it's zeleная kniga, right? They have to like line up and have the right ending so you know what's going on. So I don't know, maybe could you explain a sort of way to understand that or do that, because that becomes important, because try speaking without adjectives. Not easy.
Especially with women.
Well,
If women are in your plans,
yeah, you know what's really bad? Saying T krasivi. Don't do that. don't
memorize
do that.
properly this
Yeah.
phrasing.
Да, ты красивая, ты прекрасная, ты божественная, or other sort of words there. Those are all words you can learn later. But
Tim can provide a list.
yeah,
of
but
such
when
things.
you're talking about something that's someone that's female, it should be aya right at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Especially when you're describing. I mean, yeah, it has taken us to the same point of the importance of seeing things. Again, as I always say, the Russian grammar is for freedom. It gives you real freedom of expressing yourself.
The freedom of grammar.
In any in any situation, because once you know what it is used for, then you'll just use it. What I mean is that if you train yourself to first look at what you're talking about at the situation, and then identify, for example, that you want to talk about Tim, because he's a man, and
Yes.
we always, in teaching, we always start with masculine forms, okay? And because in dictionary, you will find
The masculine form.
forms,
Yeah,
right? Who knows why?
Yeah, I don't know. In every
would
book I've
interest
ever
me.
seen, well, not always, because it's always masculine first, but then some books put female then neuter, or feminine then neuter, but some put neuter then feminine because the neuter endings are a lot like the masculine endings. I think so you'll notice it. There's a lot of overlay, but yes. In fact, I think for the adjectives, aren't they exactly the same? The male and neuter? Wait.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, they are. They're exactly the same, in fact. Okay,
Yes.
so that's probably why they're next to each other. All right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they change in the same way.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'm looking at Tim, and I'm seeing him on the whole.
Yes, holistically.
Yeah. And this is why I want to describe him. If I want to describe him, then I need to know that every word I use to describe him should be in masculine form, because he is a man. Everything that masculine is appropriate to describe a man. That's the logic.
Right.
This is why when I say это Tim, он русский блогер, right?
Yeah.
For example, to make it
Yeah.
easy for you, блогер, you know.
Is masculine. Yeah.
Yes, and I use русский because he's man.
Yeah. Or высокий, because I'm tall.
Yes. Спортивный,
Oh,
сильный,
strong,
умный,
smart.
добрый. Are you?
Most of the time, I'm a good guy. I have my failings just like everyone.
Добрый. You see, every word we use, don't worry, we'll
Yeah.
keep saying good things about you.
Thank you.
But every new word we're going to add will have this
E.
at the end to describe a man. The man.
Yeah. But then when we get to you, we get to умная, красивая, прекрасная. See, the problem is you're married, so I want to say стройная, but your husband might be watching. That means she has a nice figure. I don't know what that'd be like. Slim in English?
Стройная. Yeah.
Стройная. But
Yeah.
see, but the main thing is all of them are ая.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we were trying
So
to
yeah,
say. Yes.
умный, умная. Высокий, высокая.
Yeah. So that, and again, this aya, those two letters, even together, a and ya, which you have in those descriptive feminine forms, like умная. Okay, I'm smart. Умная. You have to use this aya at the end, which are at the same time the endings that help you recognize that this is feminine.
Yeah,
words.
that's exactly, they're the feminine endings. Yeah. And the masculine words, the adjectives all end with y, that y, which is a consonant, so it's also male sounding. Oh my gosh, it makes perfect sense. If you think about it.
Yeah, if you only think about
If you
it.
think about it. And also, if something was neutral, like, I don't know, молоко, белое молоко ends in oye, which is also neutral.
Yes. You
Yeah,
see how it
and-
works?
Yeah.
It's all like you just said, it's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Everything matches with everything else. You just need to take time.
You just need to be told about all these little nuances, and then when they fall into place, everything makes sense.
So, team, спасибо. What else can I say?
Yeah,
Thank you for your time.
Team, тебе спасибо, maybe
Oh,
better
yes,
because that's
тебе
because it's
спасибо.
the now going to me the thanks, and и
Right.
тебе спасибо тоже.
Which is dative.
Yeah. So it was good to talk about these things because again, I just wanted to say that like I hate when people give up on Russian because it was explained to them badly by twits. And you do a great job of explaining stuff. You've even opened my mind to things I either didn't know or forgot about many years ago.
And his mind is already opened widely enough.
Yeah.
So you can imagine my job.
Yeah, that's a
Agreed.
proof of your talents. So anyways, again, how can then people get your services?
Well, as usual, you can go to our website, which is raspberry.com, or you can go to our platform, which is super cool for people who are interested in anything Russian. The platform's name is howtorussia.com. There's a lot of free stuff for you.
Oh yeah,
Including
not just
video games.
including video games.
Who love
The most
to waste
important
time.
thing. Yes, it is not wasting time. It is relaxing after a
is.
successful workday.
It is.
Yes,
Well, first of all, you have to prove that you had
a successful work
day.
Well,
Yes.
that's up to me to decide. But okay, all right. Well, that's also good, and there's also some information in general about Russia there as well, from what I understand.
Yes, a lot.
All right. So, anyways, how to Russian, and what was raspberry?
How to Russia.
How to Russia.
Like how to move to Russia or how to go to Russia. It's howtorussia.com or the direct address of our school if you already know that you are ready to jump on the boat with me or one of our teachers who we test properly.
Yeah.
The address is raspberry.com.
All right, raspberry.com. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Спасибо.
Спасибо вам.
Вам, да.
Yeah, to you all.